Hello, everybody. It's such an honor for me to be with you via video today. The title of this contribution is Do we need concepts such as humiliation, dignity, and respect to understand majority-minority problems? Here I am standing in Bolivia, in La Paz, even a bit higher, in the Valle de las Animas, the Valley of the Souls, is the valley and the place where a lot of Bolivian shamanism is performed, because it's said that here is a lot of energy. Not least because behind us we have the Illimani. This is the mountain, the symbolic mountain, the mountain that defines La Paz. We are about at a height of about 4,000 meters above sea level. I would like to start. Oh yes, perhaps I could add that in Bolivia the situation of minority-majority is very, very marked. Here 50% are so-called indigenous people. There are three major groups: Aymara, Quechua, and Guarani. And altogether there are 95 peoples in this country. And so the topic of my contribution has a specific validity or significance here in Bolivia. Now I would like to speak to you, my dear Reidar. You know that you have a very, very, very special place in my life and in my professional life, in my life project and my life mission. We met in 1996 and I asked you whether you would be willing and generous enough to be the supervisor of my doctoral dissertation on humiliation and armed conflict with fieldwork in Rwanda and Somalia on the background on European history. And you were so courageous and said yes in a situation where basically we could not build on anything. We had to create something new. And, during the 4 years of my doctoral research, you never gave up on me, even though sometimes we both were, not very optimistic that this could be done at all. So your courage and your knowledge and your support and, your wisdom has carried me through a doctoral dissertation that is very, very extraordinary in its novelty and is the starting point for the development of humiliation studies globally. So you, dear Reidar, you have made a huge contribution also to academic research and academic work. Not only of course through your work on majority and minority problems, among others, but also through the support you have given to the humiliation studies. So I have no words to thank you, and I have no words to praise you for your wisdom and courage and brilliance of mind and thinking and analysis, and humility. So I admire you and I adore you, and I think you can be extremely proud of yourself today when we all celebrate you. Now I would like to come to the topic, the question of this video, of this contribution. Do we need concepts such as humiliation, dignity and respect to understand majority-minority problems? I have begun to study humiliation and learned that there are two basic different definitions of humiliation, dignity and respect. To make it very blunt and simplified, imagine the Taliban or imagine North Korea. Their dignity and the traditional etymology of the word dignity also signifies that dignity was first used as a word in a ranked hierarchy. Somehow a dignitarian was a person who was standing higher in rank than others. So dignity was something to signify rank, higher rank. Okay, so let us say in the old traditional world of ranked worthiness of people, some people are higher, some people are lower, then humiliation, dignity and respect would mean that a minority would have to quietly respect and submissively respect that the majority would have more dignity than the minority, perhaps, in many cases. Sometimes a minority was elite minority, then the elite minority would have more dignity. And you know, this respect would mean that in a ranked society would mean that everybody respects the ranking system and the different standings of people, status of people in this ranked system. So, like, let us say a minority in many places, for example, here in Bolivia, some minorities, people from or members of minority groups, when they come into the city, they feel that they are less, and they feel that the people in the city have more dignity than them. They start, for example, then to no longer dress with their traditional clothes. For example, the women, the traditional women, indigenous women, they dress with these big, large skirts and hats, and they would no longer do that in the city because they would feel that this would give them lower rank, and by dressing Western they would achieve higher rank and more dignity. You know, when they would then go back to their people, then a woman who would have somehow stopped wearing traditional clothes, when she were to come back to her people, she would be denigrated and humiliated for having done that, having betrayed her people's pride. So you see, in a ranked system, dignity and respect and humiliation always play in an up and down calculus. Where do I stand? Up and down. And I think when Norway is a country, a very specific country with a tradition of likeverd, equality in dignity, where the notion that every human being is equal in worthiness rather than unequal in worthiness. Norway has this as a cultural heritage, which is unique in the world. Everywhere else I go on this planet, I see that the cultural heritage is unequal worthiness for everybody. So, and the Human Rights Declaration says every human being is born free and equal in dignity and rights. So the notion of equality in dignity is a new notion. Also, the word humiliation has a shift, makes a marked shift in its meaning. In 1757, in the English language, for the first time, to humiliate means to violate the dignity of a person. Before 1757, it did not mean that. To humiliate meant to show a person its due lowly place. To humble and to humiliate was the same. So we live in times where the tradition of the cultural tradition of likeverd of Norway has become the norm in human rights ideals in that form, and is in the process of becoming a norm globally. So globally, people are now saying, no, the ranking system is not really legitimate, and it's a violation, it's a humiliation. Everybody ought to be respected to have equality in dignity respected. So this is a completely different definition of humiliation, dignity and respect that we have through human rights ideals almost everywhere in the world now, coming up, and in Norway as a cultural tradition. And in this system of equality in dignity, we would recommend a woman from a minority indigenous group here in Bolivia who goes to the city and is suddenly ashamed of being less because she wears the traditional clothes, and this signifies to be a lesser being in the city. We would encourage her, no, be proud. Be proud. You can do that. Sometimes wear your traditional clothes. Sometimes you may want to wear Western clothes. In no case should it mean to you, should it signify a ranking that you are a lesser being or a higher being. The same, the countryside or the indigenous group in the Altiplano in Bolivia or in the Amazon or in the jungle. There is no need for them to say we are more than everybody else. No, one can be different. Dignity in the human rights ideals context can best be described by unity in diversity. Diversity means everybody can be different and can be united in equality in dignity. There is no need to rank diversity into higher and lesser. And in the old traditional system, there would be a ranking. There would be uniformity instead of unity in each in-group, and then there would be division rather than diversity with respect to outgroups. So I think, when you think of the very, do we need concepts such as humiliation, dignity, and respect to understand majority and minority problems? When do you have a problem of majority-minority? What does it mean to have a problem? Why does the problem occur? Like when you have a minority who has really internalized that they are lesser beings in a context where ranked worthiness is the norm, such a minority will not pose a problem. They will simply be submissive. And they will simply not show any problem. And however, then they might learn about human rights ideals. And as soon as they learn about human rights ideals, problems will arise that have not existed before. So the very problem of minority-majority is connected with learning about the notion of equality in dignity, and about the notion that to be deemed to be of lesser worthiness is now a humiliation. As soon as equality and dignity comes in as an ideal, to all people who accepted being of lesser worthiness, they will now feel humiliated. So the very problem that might arise between majority and minority arises through the very emergence of feelings of humiliation and the sense that there is a legitimate right to feel humiliated because my human rights as an equal being, equal in dignity, these human rights are violated then. So the very problem is connected with humiliation, and there is no problem if a minority accepts to be lesser, or if everybody in a society or in a community accepts a ranking system. Then also a minority can be an elite that accepts themselves and is accepted by the majority as being of more worthiness, of more dignity. So as long as everybody accepts a ranking system, humiliation, dignity, and respect have one kind of meaning and don't pose a problem. And as soon as equality in dignity, the ideal of human rights is coming up, is emerging, then this ranking system will pose a problem, and then these problems will occur. And these problems will occur as soon as feelings of humiliation emerge. In the new context, feelings of entitlement to become angry, and this was the case in Rwanda. The majority, the Hutu, Hutu means servant. They were lesser beings for many centuries, and the Tutsis were a 15% elite. They had more dignity. They were standing above the Hutus. Okay, this was the system, the accepted system. Everybody accepted it for many centuries. Then came the new ideals. 1959, the Hutus, the majority, were put in power by the Belgian colonizers, and the former elite lost their higher place and their higher worthiness and dignity. They lost it, and they became a humiliated minority. And in the 1994 genocide, the former underlings, they attempted to kill all their former humiliators. So you see that the rise of feelings of humiliation can become really very, very violent, or lead to even a genocide. While Nelson Mandela did something very different, but he started in the same way. Also, he was born down. Apartheid was once a completely accepted system by everybody, accepted by everybody, those down and those up. And then Mandela, he managed to bring the notion of equality in dignity, and he brought it to South Africa without a genocide. He would have had the power to tell the black people to kill all the white people. He did not do that. So you see that the emergence of the notion of equality in dignity, this emergence gives the right to feel humiliated to people who formerly accepted their lowliness. And as soon as they are given the right to feel humiliated, they will get angry, and that can get out of hand into violence. It has to be guided in a Mandela-like fashion in order to become constructive social change. So this is, as you see, a very, very intricate connection between ranking societies, between unequal worthiness of human beings, of each create sentient being, you could say, each creature, and of course we have to discuss also animals, dignity of animals. So the transition from unequal dignity, or I call it unequal honor, because we observe it in what we can see or label as honor societies. Taliban is a good example. Unequal worthiness, and we live now in a transition to equal worthiness. And in this transition, all these three concepts of humiliation, dignity, and respect change profoundly in their meaning, in their how they are felt, how they are acted upon, what it leads to. And this, I think, is also the responsibility of everybody who is a defender of human rights ideals, to be clear about the power of feelings of humiliation. They can lead to a genocide. So, if instigated, like in propaganda, as it was in Rwanda, we have to be aware of this power. When we give people who formerly were accepting lowliness the legitimate right to feel humiliated, we have to guide them like Mandela did. I would like to close here, and I hope I didn't talk too long. I had 15 minutes. I'm not sure whether I kept my limit now. And I would say goodbye from this wonderful, really extraordinary landscape around, surrounding the city of La Paz in Bolivia. And I wish you a very, very lovely rest of the day together. And dear Reidar, please accept my deep, deep gratitude and my deep admiration. And please feel very, very, very proud. Thank you very much to you all. Bye-bye. Thank you.